welcome back to It's Called Football. It has been a long 2 weeks without the Premier League, as a lot of the players were off on international duty representing their countries as they played qualifiers for various international tournaments that are coming up over the next few years. I know we did say that we had a couple of new features that were going to be coming out during these couple of weeks, and unfortunately, they were a little bit delayed due to certain circumstances beyond our control. But we are back at the moment, and those other videos are still in the works. They will be ready very, very soon, and we hope to get them out within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Definitely before the next international break in October. But for now, let's look ahead to Matchday 5 of the Premier League. So, the Friday fixtures, as you figured out because of the timing of this video, they are on hold for a little while. There isn't a Friday fixture for a while now. So we have the early kickoff on Saturday morning as Wolves host Liverpool, followed by a lot more games on Saturday alone. In fact, we see 7 matches in total on Saturday. We see Palace going to Aston Villa, Town traveling to Fulham, Brighton traveling to Manchester United in what might be the match of the weekend, and Tottenham Hotspur hosting Sheffield United. We continue Saturday's fixtures with a quite interesting clash as Manchester City travel to West Ham United. That might be the other big match to watch out for if you are able to tune in. Newcastle then host Brentford in the late match on Saturday. We then see 2 matches on Sunday as Chelsea try to repair their stuttering form when they travel to Bournemouth, and then Arsenal hoping to build off the huge morale boosting win against Manchester United before the international break, and they will be hoping to keep their momentum going with a tricky away fixture at Everton. Monday then wraps up this weekend's fixtures in the Premier League as Nottingham Forest host Burnley. So just a quick reminder, since we have had quite a break from the Premier League at the moment, this is what the table currently looks like. The top half sees Manchester City as the only side with a perfect record right now with 4 wins and maximum points, with 4 teams currently below them and all tied, only separated by goal difference. Tottenham, Liverpool, West Ham, and Arsenal are all right on City's tail. Brighton not far behind at all. We then see a little bit of a gap as Crystal Palace, Brentford, Forest, and Villa bring up the rest of the top half. Some surprise names in the bottom half means we see that Manchester United and Chelsea, along with Newcastle, are still stuck and trying to build a consistent run of form, which is why they are still in the bottom half at the moment. Fulham, Wolves, Bournemouth, they will all hope that they can pick up some kind of a result that might help boost their position in the table. Sheffield United, Luton, and Burnley are occupying 3 of the bottom 4 spots, which will be a concern to them, especially as Luton and Burnley are without any points so far. Everton, of course, hosting Arsenal, don't have it as easy as they might have liked. However, they do have a decent record against Arsenal when they host them. More on that coming up now. So, as we said, possibly the one key match to watch out for, which we're going to go a little bit more into detail, is Manchester United hosting Brighton and Hove Albion at Old Trafford on Saturday. The second fixture, also on Saturday, which you might want to tune in, is West Ham United hosting Manchester City. Now, the reason this one is a big fixture at the moment because Those two teams are in the top four spots of the Premier League. Manchester City, obviously, at the top and reigning champions right now. But West Ham United shocking lots of people, despite losing a player of star quality in the summer. They've replaced him well, and their current squad under their management has so far gotten impressive results against very difficult teams, and they deserve to be where they are in the table. So it remains to be seen whether West Ham can maybe pull off another shock as Manchester City come to London. So, some of our big stories that you may want to look out for in this weekend. First of all, Newcastle United, who kicked off the opening weekend so forcefully with their 5-1 win over Aston Villa. Unfortunately, since then, they have found themselves desperately struggling for form. At the end of Matchday 1, Newcastle were sitting top of the Premier League because of their goal difference sustained in that opening game. But since then, they have had three back-to-back defeats against Manchester City, then at home against Liverpool, and then away to Brighton. They will desperately want to right the ship again and get all 3 points against Brentford at this stage for their fans and for their team. Anything less than a win at home against Brentford would probably be unforgivable, especially with the European matches and the Champions League just around the corner. West Ham and Manchester City, as we already mentioned, they aren't necessarily rivals, and City normally do have the better of West Ham. However, the Hammers have started this campaign quite strongly, unbeaten still, 3 wins and a draw. And David Moyes, the manager on the right there, has been masterful in his strategy so far and getting wins in impressive fashion, not just fluking them against teams like Chelsea and Brighton, who are generally very tough opponents, but West Ham have dispatched of both in their 4 games so far. Manchester City, though, of course, shouldn't be worrying too much with the squad they have available. And aside from Kevin De Bruyne, their star midfielder, they don't really have huge injuries that could affect their attacking prowess. City probably have enough to come away with the win, but if ever West Ham were in the form to try and stop City in their tracks, now would be it. Manchester United have an excellent record at Old Trafford. In fact, last season was one of their best in terms of their home record in all competitions. The slight chink in the armor is that last season in the league, Manchester United lost only one match at home, and it happened to be their opening home game of last season to, you guessed it, Brighton. So, United will definitely want to make sure that a repeat does not happen of that result, where they lost at home to Brighton on the opening day. Now, of course, United did not lose at home again the rest of last season, which is very impressive. But Brighton showed that they could be beaten there and were the only team to manage it. Even the mighty Manchester City could not beat United at their own ground. So United will want to try and set things right as well, considering they're sitting in 11th place right now. They are just coming off a rather stinging defeat to Arsenal in the last round of fixtures, and they've had a 2 week gap now, although it hasn't been the smoothest 2 week break for United. Off the field, there have been some incidents and some concerns, but on the pitch, they will be hoping that they can set things right with the right result. Brighton, of course, uh, will want to make sure that they keep their good form going, considering that they're sitting in a healthy spot in the top half. And Brighton know, this group of players at Brighton know that they can beat Manchester United because they beat them home and away last season. They will definitely want to follow up last season's win at Old Trafford with another one, and they will feel confident as well. So Everton versus Arsenal. Given the current position of those two teams, one might be forgiven to think that this is a guaranteed win of any kind for Arsenal. However, the Gunners have not actually won away at Everton in the last 5 years. Uh, it's not a guaranteed win at all, and last season, weirdly, coincidentally perhaps, Arsenal had just beaten Manchester United at home in a thrilling match, and then followed that up with a 1-0 defeat away to Everton. Now, although we're separated by an international break, it is a little uncanny that Arsenal have just come off a great win against Manchester United at home, and their following fixture is away to Everton. So they will hope that lightning doesn't strike twice in terms of Everton somehow getting the better of them despite being in a much weaker position in the table and having a weaker squad at the moment. Aside from these major stories, we will probably be interested to see how Tottenham perform, with news breaking today that their manager Ange Postecoglou and their new signing from the summer James Maddison have won the Manager of the Month and Player of the Month awards respectively for August for the Premier League. Now, Tottenham have done extremely well, and it's hard to argue that they deserve it. They've been the joint top scorers. They've really lit the league on fire in their fixtures, and we want to see whether they can keep up their good form. They've got some tricky fixtures coming in the next few weeks. So let's bring you to our predictions for this weekend's fixtures. Now, there are some that perhaps look a little more straightforward, especially to fans that have watched these teams regularly over the last couple of years, or just know a little more about these teams. If you are new to the channel or new to watching the Premier League or following it, perhaps you might not know about the relative strengths of different teams. That depends on your experience. So, we'll try to help out a little bit here and there with our predictions, which might give you an idea of where certain teams stand in the overall league in terms of strength. So, Wolves have not necessarily been all that impressive, nothing to write home about. Liverpool, by contrast, have looked very good, and aside from Manchester City, Liverpool have probably looked like the most impressive team after City across the first four matches in the league season thus far. Uh, they finished off their last fixture with a routine 3-0 win over Aston Villa, who have been reasonably impressive so far. And I don't see any reason why Liverpool wouldn't continue that form. They haven't really had any players injured or fatigued over this international break, and they have enough options to get the 3 points here, although it is an away fixture. So I'm going to go with a 3-0 away win for Liverpool here. I think they're simply too strong for Wolves, and Wolves having just lost one of their gems in midfield to Manchester City, it's very difficult to see where the threat comes from Wolves. Now, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace is another difficult one. Aston Villa obviously didn't have the best result just before the break, but they do have a good squad, although hit by a couple of injuries. I think it's tricky, this one. Palace can be a tough opponent on their day, and it kind of depends on which Crystal Palace turns up for this fixture. I think it will be a close match, but ultimately I think Aston Villa have a little too much strength and they will come away with a win here by 2 goals to 1. Fulham haven't been incredible. They did steal a point away at Arsenal a couple of weeks ago before the international break. And Luton, although they fought bravely against West Ham in their last fixture, I don't know that they have it in them really to compete with teams that finished quite comfortably in the top half. And although Fulham haven't done that this season. They did finish very strongly last season, and they were generally very tough last season. I think Fulham will win this match 2-0 with relative ease. Now, Manchester United and Brighton is a very difficult fixture, and of course, this is one that might be one of the most unpredictable right now from this match week. I think in the end, United's home form is going to continue, and they are going to get a decent result here. I think they will just about overcome Brighton by 2 goals to 1. However, I was wrong about United last time out against Arsenal, and if Brighton turn up the way regular viewers of the Premier League have seen them do over the last couple of years, Brighton could easily steal a draw or even the win if United don't turn up with the right level of concentration. Spurs have looked strong. They don't really have any problems, and they have been admittedly extremely impressive so far in the Premier League so this season. I think Sheffield United don't really offer a lot. They did fight well against Manchester City a couple of weeks ago, but I think ultimately this is going to be a game that Spurs find quite comfortable and a 3-0 win. West Ham and Manchester City. Both these sides are unbeaten in the league so far this year, and it feels like something is going to give. Unfortunately for West Ham, and your fans can absolutely rip into me if I turn out to be wrong, or just for my prediction in general. I think Man City have a little too much going for them. They have just their players are so good, their tactical knowledge is excellent, and with their manager Pep Guardiola now back and recovered after a couple of weeks away from the team bench when he was recovering from some surgery, he's now back. He will have been keen to witness his side uh, play to their standard. And I think City will come away with a 3-1 win. I don't even think West Ham's goal is going to equalize or lead uh, in this game. I think it will be a consolation. Newcastle and Brentford is it's not the most obvious one. Brentford haven't exactly lit the league up the way they've done in the last couple of years, but they are still a solid side. Newcastle with 3 defeats on the bounce so far. It you would think that they've spent this international break at least trying to drill the mentality in of making sure they don't drop even more points because they will have been hoping for finishing in the top 4 spots, and right now they're a long way away in terms of points and performance. I think this one's going to be an exciting fixture, and I'm going to go with perhaps an outlandish prediction, but I'm going to say 3-2 to Newcastle. Bournemouth and Chelsea should, on paper, be a routine win for Chelsea, really, but with their form being a little bit up and down, it's tricky to be 100% sure of how this is going to go. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a cagey kind of a game where both sides don't really take much in the way of risks, and I think Chelsea might just sneak away with that win at 1-0. Everton and Arsenal have an interesting history. Arsenal tend to destroy Everton when they host it, but Everton also seem to get the wins against Arsenal when they're hosting it, no matter what form they're in. I think Arsenal, having not quite clicked so far this season in terms of their performance at least, will really need to up their game if they want to get a win. And Everton have a habit of really turning it on and playing to another level when they host Arsenal, perhaps because of their confidence from results in recent years. Eventually, I think they're going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to say this will be another year of dropped points for Arsenal at Goodison Park with a 1-1 draw. Forest and Burnley should, based on results so far and performance, it should be a Forest win, which is what I'm going with. I was expecting a lot more from Burnley this season so far, and they haven't really shown it. Forest, on the other hand, were impressive against the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United, despite losing to both. And then they did actually win away at Chelsea as well. So I think they can do this. They're sitting in a decent spot on the table right now, perhaps higher than most people would have expected. And I think they're going to get 3 points in this game. So I think that's where we're going to leave it at for today. We will review the Premier League Matchday 5 fixtures after Monday when the games are done. And we will also be looking ahead to the Champions League as European football is set to start for the coming season at its top level, and we see Manchester City, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Newcastle uh, look to fly the English flag in Europe's elite competition. But for now, we will leave you at this point. Enjoy the weekend's fixtures if you're able to tune in, and please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, get your friends to check us out. And just remember, it's called football.